30 years ago, this abandoned village was bought by one man who fell in love with its remote location in the Catalan Pyrenees. He's made it his life's work to restore and re-inhabit the village, installing modern infrastructure and attracting new inhabitants to build on neighbouring plots of land. He kept this shepherd's hut for himself, restoring a small portion of it to stay in for periods of time while he worked on the village around him. And now his children have their own children. The family need more space and want to turn this little shepherd's hut into a home for his son. It's a challenging plot for a few reasons. The boundary of it is a very irregular shape with, I think, not one right angle in plan view, and it comprises two buildings, one at each end. The two-storey one is on the south side, overshadowing the single-storey open-sided shelter on the north side, which means that the majority of the best quality sunlight hits this massive wall. It's this upper portion of the two-storey building that was converted into simple accommodation, and there's an entire ground floor room also, but no internal staircase, so you reach this accommodation via this stone and timber stair in the courtyard. The owner wants to incorporate the unused portions of both buildings into a home, and to connect them without covering over the whole courtyard. As a self-contained plot with roads on all sides, this courtyard is the only external space that can be enjoyed by this building, so as much as possible of it should be retained. And this north end of the plot is lower than the south end, so the connection between the two buildings also needs to incorporate a level change. I used Milanote for this project because before starting a design proposal like this, I usually spend some time looking through the photos and drawings of a site to get a feel for a space and see which architectural features and materials jump out at me. I've always just held this information in my head, which can get difficult when there's a lot to go through or if I'm working with someone else. So I was really excited to discover Milanote after they suggested their visual organisation boards could be a great tool for me in my design process. I've tried a few methods for collating visual information in the past, but always struggled with how linear it has to be in order to go through it. And really, I just want to look at everything together in one place. Milanote boards act like a brainstorming wall where you can drag and drop images, sketches, notes, links, arrows, you name it, and get that tangle of ideas out of your head and onto a blank page. I used it for the shepherd's hut, and it really helped me get clarity on the elements of the building that felt significant to me as precedents for the architectural language of my design proposal. And at the same time, I could build up a picture of the existing material narrative, which helped me to refine the palette of my design. It's a really flexible tool that gives you attractive results quickly, so I'd be happy to submit this board to a client along with a proposal and cut out a whole stage of presentation work. And I've been using it for more and more things in my life, like my business plan, content plan, family meal planning, travel planning. It's definitely a keeper. There are loads of templates included just to make things even easier, and there's a mobile app so you can keep updating your boards on the go, and you can download a web clipper to whichever browser you use so you can collect and organise inspirational images and links as soon as you find them. And what is most amazing of all is that Milanote is available for free with no time limit. You can sign up using the link in the description and empty all those to-do lists out of your head and onto a visual board right now. I'd love to know how you get on, so let me know in the comments. This courtyard gets a beautiful quality of sunlight at different times of year, but because this building at the south end is two-storey, that ends up blocking some of it. There's no other garden, so the courtyard is the only outdoor space that can be enjoyed by the owner. So it's really important that I create a home that can both open up to this courtyard and get the best quality of sunlight reaching into as much of it as possible. To do this, I couldn't just rely on looking at a sun path on a 2D drawing. So instead, I mocked up the model first in 3D so that I could see exactly where the sun falls at certain times of the day and year. When I did that, I could see that this patch of the courtyard gets the most exposure to the sun throughout the day and through the seasons. And so that set the parameters for the whole design to develop around. So to be able to enjoy this sunlight on the courtyard, it makes sense for the living spaces to be in this old open shelter. So you can sit in your living room and look out onto the courtyard, or have open access between your kitchen and an outdoor eating space. The owner wanted to keep the living areas open plan with free flow between all the areas, but there still needs to be some definition between the spaces to make it homely and cosy. So I've created a sort of separating element with this central two-sided stove that faces both the living and the kitchen and dining area. And that ties in with this existing supporting column. And I think it creates a nice contrast between the old and new elements. So, as I mentioned at the start, the two buildings on this site need to become one by forming a connection between them. Now, I know where the best sunlight falls in the courtyard, so that rules out any new structure in that area. On the other side of the courtyard, there is a set of steps that provide access from the raised street level outside down into the courtyard one way and up into the two-storey building the other way. The owner of the building really loves the character of these steps, as they were constructed by his father and have always been used to store wood beneath them. So I don't want to lose them entirely either, which leaves this central strip for forming a linking structure across the courtyard. To avoid this feeling like a long corridor, I want to keep it as open and glazed as possible so that you still feel like you're crossing the courtyard as you walk through it. And by pulling back these sliding doors, you can still walk the full width of the courtyard from side to side, so it doesn't become like a wall blocking you from moving around the whole site. There's a lot going on though with this new structure and infill to the existing shelter and all the existing architectural features of the building. So I felt it was important to find an architectural language that could tie it all together as much as possible. Creating a regular rhythm of timbers wrapping round from the living room to the link structure really helps to both reference the exposed timbers of the existing building while creating some harmony in the new elements. The aim is to calm the whole mixture down and simplify things so that your eyes aren't pulled all over the place. The roof of the link structure then carries on the language of the overhanging rafters on the existing building, again tying the new to the old. And then because you enter the courtyard from this raised street level, this would mean your first view on entering would be over the roof of the new linking structure. So I've put a meadow green roof here to make it feel like part of a garden and to give the owners somewhere to plant the wildflowers from the surrounding mountains. Coming in through this raised entrance, I've actually expanded on the existing steps that the owner likes so much and created a raised portion of courtyard. From here, you can take one route and walk down the existing steps into this entrance courtyard where you get a view through the link structure to the courtyard on the other side. And I've moved the log storage here too and tucked it under the raised courtyard. So you can go out for a walk in the mountains and then come back through this muddy boot entrance this way, hang up your coat, sit down to take off your shoes, and head directly into the cosy kitchen and living areas. When it's time to head to bed, you'd leave the kitchen and come into this midway space where there's a little quiet reading space overlooking the courtyard. The owner is an author and a huge fan of reading, so having a cosy reading nook like this that doesn't feel pokey or small is something he'd use a lot. And in this partition between the kitchen and the reading area, there's the opportunity for some storage and a boiler to be hidden away and vented through the roof. Further along the link, I've put some recessed storage under the raised courtyard outside, just carving out a little more internal usable space. So in here you can put a washing machine and linen cupboard. And then at the end of this route, you enter the ground floor of the existing two-storey building. So in order to make this ground floor part of the habitable space, I need to introduce an internal stair. You might remember that in the existing layout, the only way of accessing the habitable upper floor is via the exterior stair. So when it came to working this out, I looked back at these photos of the original structure that had been used as a shepherd's hut to see what had been added by the owner's father and what was original. And by stripping this area back to the original double height opening, this allowed me to extend the level of the raised courtyard inside the building to act as a landing between the two stories. Using a timber stair with this stone base references the original stair that the owner liked so much and sort of develops it as a concept. And that sets the line of the exterior facade and defines this internal circulation volume. So then it's a case of fitting bathrooms and bedrooms in these irregular spaces at the end. It makes sense to put a downstairs toilet and shower that is the general guest bathroom over here, and forming a right angle in this partition wall gives the room a more even shape, which makes it easier to work with. And it doesn't negatively impact the bedroom space to have 5 wall planes rather than 4. I've enlarged the existing window in this downstairs room so it isn't so dark, and while the ceiling is quite low, it's still got good potential as a guest bedroom. On the first floor, you have a similar layout, but here you have the opportunity to bring more light in by connecting the space more with this glazed north wall. So I've made this internal partition wall openable with shutters so that during the day this feels very bright and open. Using double doors at the entrance makes a wider opening too, and that draws this landing into the bedroom space where you can enjoy a window seat overlooking the courtyard. The bathroom up here is an ensuite with a similar layout to the room below. And I've held on to the original wood burning stove that is in this space currently, as it would make this space even cozier. And with the introduction of a roof light, you'd get to enjoy the total darkness of the mountains and the shooting stars at night.